3, 2, 1.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Real Pineapple. This is your humble host, Hunter, here. Hope you guys are having a great week so far. So I've got part 2, season 2 review of Dead to Me, which I just finished this past week. So full spoilers for season 1, obviously, and I am going to be going into some spoilers. Oh, pardon me. I will be going to some spoilers for season 2, but I'm going to try to keep it as vague as humanly possible. So if you don't want to know anything, just know that the season's excellent and you need to watch it. And I will leave it at that. Okay, so picking up from where season 1 ended, where Steve was murdered by Jen, which they do fill you in this season on how that was done. The thing I love about the season more than I even liked it in season 1 is how they portray the relationships between characters. Jen and Judy, played by Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini, respectively, they are both excellent again this season. I think Judy actually is the most fleshed out and actually my favorite character this season, personally. Jen, I think, is excellent. Christina Applegate, again, does a great job. But a lot of her arc really is covering up some things that occur. I like where we go with Judy because she does get a new love interest. But it is also about her healing the wounds and really discovering some of the things that Steve did to her and kind of seeing it from other people's perspective. To how toxic their relationship was. So I really appreciate that. So the first season goes ahead and picks up with Jen and Judy scrambling, trying to go ahead and cover up the murder of Steve. And what I love about this is that this season in particular definitely gives you that feeling of the walls are closing in. It just feels like everything's falling apart. It's like the last season of Dexter, if it was actually, good and well executed. So the season starts off with a lie from jump. If you remember from season 1, the finale, Judy shows up and Jen has already killed Steve. Jen tells Judy that he charged her that he strangled her or choked her, and that she went ahead and basically did what she had to do to go ahead and survive. We unfortunately find out that was not the case, and that Jen flat out murdered Steve. I think it's a little more complicated than that, but we will get there. So I love that Jen, rightfully so, is still so pissed off at Judy. That's something that helps the season really breathe, the fact that it does carry over, and that Jen and Judy's relationship, it gets more complicated this season because Jen has to live with the fact that while what Judy did was an accident as far as hitting her husband and killing him, what she did was not an accident. She took that bird from Henry's president, and bashed Steve over the head with it, which is more of a crime of passion than an accident, like in Judy's case. So I appreciated that the show shows Jen's hypocrisy and how she really needs to go ahead and try to be able to deal with that without the guilt of the actual act just breaking her. I thought that was extremely well done, and that arc in particular I thought was so well handled. Secondly, there is a callback to, I will simply say, a confrontation that Jen had in season 1. All I will say is that it involves a stop sign, and I thought that speech in particular, when you get to it, you'll know. I thought that scene in particular is one of the best scenes in the whole show, and one of my favorite scenes all year. I thought it was absolutely excellent. The other thing about the season, it really shows how good of a person Judy is. yes, Judy's a complete fuck up, and there's a lot of layers to her, but at her core, she is a good person. She wants to make people around her feel loved because she doesn't feel loved. And there is this point where Judy is making a pie for everyone in the house, and Jen goes, "Oh, what kind is it?" And Judy retorts, "Oh, cherry, your favorite." And Jen immediately shoots back with, "Oh, I can't have any pie. I gained 10 pounds." And Judy just looks at Jen and goes, "I really wish you'd love yourself more." And at the end of the day, if there is a message that you can take away, I really think that's one of the key ones. It's just love yourself more. Learn to give yourself more credit. And the problem, it's not even a problem with the script or anything, but Jen's big problem is that she really can't give herself credit on anything. Yes, she's definitely struggling to go ahead and make the single mom thing work, but at the same time, she was dealt one of the shittiest hands you could possibly be dealt, period. And she's doing the best she can to go ahead and navigate through all this. And I love the way that the show does call out Jen on the fact that she is slacking as a mom, and that Charlie and Henry are really acting a fool because of it. Charlie does something, I want to say it's about episode 4, episode 5, where you just go, "Oh, you dumb fucking kid, what are you doing?" And it really does have consequences as we get towards the season finale. God help us if there's not a season 3 of this. I loved the new character of Michelle, who's played by Natalie Morales. You more than likely know her as Lucy from Parks and Rec. And my favorite relationship, maybe even more so than Jen and Judy, was Judy and Michelle, because this season for Judy, it really is about her finding love, whether that's spiritually, romantically, but also learning how to love herself and how to forgive herself. And there's a couple scenes where Judy just breaks down. I didn't mention him in the season 1 review, but Abe, who's freaking awesome. We know he died in season 1, and so Michelle goes ahead and brings her mom in to basically, rent out his room. And there's a spark between Michelle and Judy immediately. And it's very cool how the show, because it is also written by a woman, it doesn't over sexualize Judy and Michelle, which, let's be real, if it was a guy, it probably would have been way easier to do that. But there is a certain amount of care that's taken as far as portraying a relationship. There is a sort of responsibility that Liz Feldman goes ahead and portrays the characters with that I really did appreciate, because again, it didn't feel overly sexual, it didn't feel like a fetish. It just felt like a very natural relationship for where Judy is. And again, on that spiritual plane, it felt like Michelle hit this nerve with her in a way that I went, okay, this makes sense that you two are together. There is a hiccup in the relationship, and I'm not going to bring up what it is, because when you see it, you go, "Oh, son of a bitch," but in the best way, because it's just one of those other twists that the show is so great at throwing at you. I love, and I'm blanking on her name, but I love Jen's neighbor, because she was very much a minor character in season 1. Karen, I believe it is. But Karen just she wants to get out of the house. She wants to go ahead and be involved with people. She's pardon me. She's a stay-at-home mom. And I appreciate the fact that Jen and Karen were able to relate on that level. And Karen she's trying so hard. She tells her, "Hey, let's have some wine. Let's sit up at a pool." She really is trying to make friends with Jen, and I found it incredibly endearing, their relationship. The problem is that the neighbor ends up becoming more of a liability than anything, and you'll see how that plays out. One of the scenes that just broke my heart, there's a scene where Jen is talking to her youngest, Henry, and he tells her how he had a bad dream, and she goes, "Well, what's wrong?" And he tells her that he was in this room alone, and that they took you away from me. And I thought that scene in particular was so well played out, and it really does go ahead and elevate the sense of urgency that Jen is feeling, because obviously, single mom, she doesn't want her kids going off to the grandma because the grandma sucks. She wants to be there for her kids, and it's really clever the way the show goes ahead and lays the stakes out very early on, and you feel this certain feeling of dread kind of hanging over Jin and Judy all season. So as things get to the climax, you really do feel things ramping up. Also, I love the fact that this season they really get into the fact that even if someone has passed, if they're a piece of shit, they're a piece of shit. And I love how Jin really does tell Judy that, look, Steve, abused you. He yelled at you. He made you feel like less of a person. There is a scene where Judy plays these voice messages that Steve left, and they are just some of the most intense. Oh God, how could you be okay with saying these things to someone you supposedly love? And that switch that I mentioned in season one, how he can go from being so endearing and loving about her to immediately just being like, "Oh, you fucking bitch." There is a scene very similar to the scene in season one where Judy gets the confession from Jin that Jin flat out killed Steve. Now, obviously, murder is not good, but I would, now I'm paraphrasing, but I would like to just read basically what Steve said. In reference to Ted, he was looking for a way out. Ted jumped in front of your car. He wanted to get hit, and I don't blame him. If I was married to you, I'd want to put a gun to my head and pull the trigger, you miserable cunt. Now, okay, I've been called the N-word before, and I've definitely gotten the fights because of that. If I'm a woman, someone says that to me, I would probably hit him in the head with a bird too. It may not kill him, but I damn sure would hit them, because what a terrible fucking thing to say to someone who's trying to get over the death of someone. Like, what a fucking asshole to drop that shit in her own home, might I add. And so when she snaps, I kind of went, you know what? Yeah, I mean, you said a very, very shitty thing. And the other thing that the show, I mean, it doesn't completely absolve Jen, let's be clear, but there's a point multiple times she asked him to leave, and he said, "I'm not gonna fucking leave till you tell me where the fuck Judy is." And it's like, well, dude, she gave you an out, and you just had to keep pushing, being a prick. So this is kind of what you get, as fucked up as that sounds. I love the way that the FBI is brought in, because you do find out how deep Steve's connections went, and how much really illegal activity he was involved in. There are some elements to this. I don't really want to get into them, but they're a little, not far-fetched, a little coincidental, and some people might say that's coincidental. I personally think it's a very well-placed tapestry as far as where this show ends up. At the end of this season, I think it's super well done. Some people might have a problem with the fact that it is somewhat of a rehash, except that the roles are flipped as far as Judy and Jen. But I think that even with the roles flipped, it still works so incredibly well. And I actually think the writing is smarter here. The show does such a great job of building tension between these moments where you feel people getting closer to the secret about what happened to Steve. You feel the tension between Judy and Jen, because the secret's just bearing down on both of them. It's really quite intriguing to watch, and just to see this unintentional chess match between the two of them as they're just trying to go ahead and survive, and yet they get closer, I think, this season than they even were during the first season, because of everything they've gone through. there is a scene where Detective Perez is talking to Nick, because Detective Perez, and that is one thing I will say, she has a hard on for Judy like there's no tomorrow. Now, granted, she's not wrong, but I would compare it to Detective Aceveda with Vic Mackey from The Shield, where she has such a hard on for her. You kind of just go, man, if you had your own life, you'd probably be a much happier person. And to the credit of the show, they kind of address that in later episodes, and I will just leave it at that without, again, trying to spoil anything. Just going ahead and going through a couple more highlights here. There was a joke that I want to say Judy made, telling Jen how the FBI is looking for Steve, and Jen, without missing a beat, goes, "This isn't the fist." Oh no. Sorry, the twin brother says that. Now, so here's the trip. James Marsden comes back on the show. He does play Steve in flashbacks, obviously, but he plays Ben Wood, who's Steve's twin brother. And again, just have to shout out James Marsden. The fact that he was able to go ahead and play twins and give them such distinct personalities, so that, obviously James Marsden playing both roles, but the way he dives into each role, both the roles, I thought was fucking inspired. There is this really sweet scene where Ben is talking to Jen about the fact that he had, I believe it was like seven surgeries because of his heart, and how he's got scars. He's got scars because of his heart defect, and how they connect because of that. Because Jen had breast cancer, so she had surgery, and I love that very raw and very real conversation that they have about that, and about how they don't feel pretty, they feel less than because of the surgeries they had. I thought that was so incredibly well done, and it really just shows that connection that they have, but also a very real world thing about the fact that, if you look at people who've been through abusive relationships, physically or mentally, there are scars there. And I love the fact that Jen is able to let her guard down a little bit to Ben, even if it's not as much as maybe he or she would have liked, but it does show that she's slowly getting to that point where she can heal, and it does make you endear more to Jen as the season goes on, despite the terrible things she did. I mentioned it briefly, but there is that scene where she's speaking to some powerful men, and I'll kind of leave it at that. I thought that scene was super well handled. There's a scene where Jen just breaks down, talking about how Steve, how as shitty as a person Steve was, how Judy deserved to go and have a chance to say goodbye to him. And that scene in particular just made me really get choked up. There's a scene where Judy is almost pulling a Mark Wahlberg in Fear. She's like slapping herself and saying, like, why can't you do anything right? Why can't you just be quiet? I thought that scene in particular was just brutal. The season really does a great job of not just building tension, but it has these very big spikes. I will just say there is a memorial episode for Steve that I thought was so fucking well done. It might be my favorite episode of the series. I believe it's I believe it's episode 5 of the season. But this show just continues to elevate and continues to just get better. I give everyone in the show so much credit. My only real complaint is Charlie is just such a shitty kid. He's such a terrible teenager, and he acts like he's not doing anything wrong. And I think that in particular drove me fucking insane. And I just think that if I did half the shit he did, I'd probably be I don't even know what my mom would have done. I can't even wrap my head around a punishment that severe. But that's really my only gripe. I thought the score was excellent. James Marsden really shows out here, playing dual roles. Because again, playing Steve in flashbacks, playing Ben in current time. And where this season ends, Alea and my mouth was just hanging open like, what the hell? So this show, it needs a third season. I don't think it needs more than a third season. And the only reason I say that is because I think a show like this, because of the concept, the concept can get old very quickly. So I think a third season to wrap this up, I think would be perfect. But this is becoming one of those shows I go, you know what? I'm gonna need to be telling everyone to watch this if they haven't. This was excellent, and this was so well executed. I gave season one, I believe, an A, which I think is fair, just because of a few not gripes even that I had, but just I thought there were things that could have been improved upon. But season two, I think, is damn near flawless. I thought this show was just, it really gave me everything I wanted. It gave me laughs. I cried. It gave me a finale that I just went, oh, son of a bitch, you better get a third season. You're more endeared, as I mentioned, to Jin and to Judy, and the way their relationship evolves, I thought was Shakespearean in just how tragic and yet beautiful it was. Everyone else in this show came to play. I would have liked a little more Christopher Doyle. I thought he was really good, but the scenes you do get with him are great. And there's a scene with Detective Perez and Jen. I won't say what context, but when you see the scene, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I thought that scene was absolutely incredible. One of the best scenes in the whole in either season. So I'm gonna give season two of Dead to Me a fan-fucking-tastic. I thought this was absolutely excellent. I'll probably go through and watch this again before the end of the year. I thought this was just incredibly well done. But ladies and gents, have you seen Dead to Me season 1 and 2? Let me know what you thought. What do you think would happen with season 3? Again, hopefully we get a season 3. But go ahead and like us on Facebook at The Real Pineapple. You can go ahead and follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. That's REEL Pineapple. Go ahead and tweet me, guys. I love talking about movies, wrestling. Go ahead and hit me up. I'd love to hear from you. You can go ahead and follow Scott on Twitter at Nearman1. You can follow Colin on Twitter at The Real O'Neill. That's REEL O'Neill. And go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. There we go. At The Real Pineapple. Guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll have reviews up this weekend for, I'm not sure we're going to review this weekend. But we will have more reviews up this weekend. Guys, I hope you're all staying safe out there. Please take care of each other. Help out where you can. And we'll talk to you guys soon. You guys have a good one. Take care.